Hoi! We have a new week and therefore a new rotation of expeditions, and along with that we have a bunch of other news. We'll start with the mutations and talk about the reward that you could care about for these ones. Our mutations are Garden of Genesis, the Ennead, and Glacial Tarn. The mutation type this week is Void, which as far as I can tell is not really particularly beneficial for any of these. The Ennead gives you a powerful solo mount charm, which gives you a large boost to mount dash when off-road. Could be interesting for some people. But more importantly, let's talk about the artifacts. Freya's Francisca is the one that drops from Garden of Genesis, more specifically from the Blighted Greenskeeper. In my opinion, this is the most interesting option to look for if you're looking for a PvP-focused throwing hatchet, since the cooldown reduction comes in very handy there in terms of utility. And I would say that even after the changes to artifacts, this one is one that will hold value. Sundering Stacks is not that great, but the Throne Mastery passive itself is so good that I think it makes up for it, and being able to swap the ability perk now as well, it makes it even nicer. There is some new info about the other throwing hatchet artifact that I was not aware of. DPS wise, it might actually be able to keep up with Freya's better than I expected in PvE and possibly outclass it due to the explosion being classified as a hatchet throw in itself, which changes a variety of mechanics around it. But that said, Freya's Francisca is still very nice for PvP and also very nice for tanking. The cooldown reduction that you're getting here allows you to tank much easier with the hatchet with much better uptime. So if you're either a throwing hatchet PvP or a tank, I would not ignore this one. From the Ennead we can get the Wall. This one drops from Heru. On the topic of tanking, this is obviously a tank item, but in my opinion it is not that great at the moment because triple protection shields just seem to be the way to go. There are some arguments you can make here in favor of the Wall since it has some elemental mitigation, but the fact that you cannot dodge at all while using it even on your other weapon makes it, in my opinion, not a great choice in most situations. It's been nerfed significantly as well, so I might be a little bit biased here, and there are some tanks that still really like it. And if you don't have anything to start out with, you could still use it, but I personally wouldn't recommend farming it excessively. I think there are better options to look for. Deep Freeze drops from Snorog Icefist, the first boss in Glacial Tarn. This one has a very interesting, unique effect where it deals more damage to targets that are frozen, rooted, or chilled. So if you're going for a very aggressive Ice Gauntlet build or a Spike build, then this is often the choice that people opt for. I would say it's not necessarily the best in slot option anymore, at least, due to the fact that Sundering Stacks is on it, which is really not that great for an Ice Gauntlet, especially for a burst build like that. So there could be some better options out there with more random roll perks, but I do think that this is at least a nice starting point. If you appreciate this info so far, consider subscribing and clicking the bell. And also I've been streaming a bit on Twitch TV/DukeSloth lately, especially if you want to see some PvP, then feel free to follow me there. Now, there is another thing that is happening at the moment, which is an XP boost event, with a label saying here that all of these refining trade skills, smelting, woodworking, leatherworking, weaving, and stonecutting, are getting a doubled bonus, which is obviously very nice for new players trying to level up things. The issue with that is that weirdly it doesn't show up properly for me in-game at least. I'm not quite sure what that is because it should be, so you'd have to test that for yourself and see if you actually get a doubled bonus or not, but it should technically be working, not 100% sure. And then we have some additional new info. So Katie said a fun behind the scenes thing. Earlier this year we did a game jam for my team where we got to work on prototypes for new features and content that they were passionate about, with a chance to get that prototype greenlit. That's where Catacombs and the customizable HUD come from. And I think those are both very good additions to the game, so I'm glad they did this. Very exciting that this was a way to get in the game, because they also talk about other stuff here. So somebody was asking why some of the farms are looking so empty in the new zone and if farming is something they were looking into. And Katie said that is something we have definitely discussed. And another interesting project that New World devs prototyped for the game jam was gardening and homesteads. Might be fun to post some of the ideas actually. I know you guys would get a kick out of it, to be determined. So we already know that they have talked about gardening to some degree before and homesteads. This is something they mentioned in the context of the roadmap, it's something that would be like really cool, really long term. Similar with guild housing or company housing, things like that. But something that we shouldn't expect in the near future. But it is interesting that they have tested that as well, and she's kind of hinting at it a little bit. I think there would be a very interesting addition to New World that I think some people would really enjoy. Personally, I probably wouldn't spend too much time on it, but I know there is definitely a demographic that enjoys those more casual things, those more relaxed activities like fishing and that, and those things would be right up their alley basically. And there's also some convenience in having some of the cooking ingredients just growing in the backyard of your house. So I'm very curious what will happen with this idea and if we'll actually see this properly in the future. We also have official confirmation of the world's first Isle of Night completion. Happened on October 16 at 3 p.m. or almost 4 p.m. And the team was Schmeckelmeister, Ziggy Tau, I'm not going to read that name, Tank DPS All, Met27, Only Heals, Chia Pets, Nicole Grace, Harmonia, and Brr Black. It took them 219 minutes to clear. I'm assuming that is in that one instance. It could possibly have been longer in total. The average gear score was 751, so really don't need to be 800 to clear it. And the final blow was done by, who would have thought, a rapier player, Chia Pets, with a critical rapier flurry strike. I'm assuming that the weapon meta might evolve further in the future, though. I think this was just more of a them going with what was already established, what was already known, what they had already practiced, and seeing how that goes and how that works. And I think people will find more efficient ways as time goes on. But yeah, congratulations to Schmeckel's team. That is very cool. I wish we had had similar things for the Sandworm. I did not get my glory from that, I guess. But it's nice that they're adding this for new raids, and I think we can expect something like this in the future as well. So that's cool. Maybe they will add a flawless run eventually here as well as a secondary chart. I think they had that on Sandworm. That was one of the achievements, was to do a flawless clear, which was then bugged, so it didn't even work initially. But anyway, I think it is nice to have a little bit of recognition for the PvE grinders, get them a little bit extra hype as well. That's all the updates for today. Consider subscribing and clicking the bell if you want to see more in the future. Tomorrow we'll probably have a beginner's guide, and then we'll talk a bit more about gear and what you want to look for in that. If you'd like to support me further, you can do so on Patreon and get early trading tips in return. I just posted another one. Thanks to all of my patrons who already do exactly that, and thank you for watching. Duke Sloth, out.